It's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome to Vlogmas Day 3. Yes, I know we already upload daily on this channel, but Vlogmas is here, which means that all of our videos from now until December 25th are going to be Christmas or winter based. And of course, just like all of our other Vlogmas videos, we're gonna start off with my friend's calendar. If you are as big of a Friends fan as I am, you can go ahead and pick up this calendar for yourself. Now, I will put a little disclaimer on it. I've heard that it's not the best bang for your buck. So far, the items that I've been seeing, I love them. I'm gonna treasure them, but they do feel a little flimsy. So you can go ahead and purchase this at your own discretion. I personally love it. I'm gonna keep this box forever and treasure it. All right, so let's get into our door number 3. Oh, cute. You're the Monica to my Rachel. I love it. So yesterday I talked about the rules of baking that I break constantly. So today I'm going to be talking about the rules that I actually never break. After yesterday's video, you probably thought I was a bit of a sloppy baker, but today's video I'm going to be talking about the steps that you really shouldn't skip. So let's get into it. So step number 1, I know yesterday I said that I skip measuring vanilla, but literally everything else I measure down to a T. Now, I used to be a cups person, and I still am, just because certain recipes that I have recommend it in cups and I don't want to go and do the conversion. But honestly, grams is the way to go. Grams or ounces, wherever you're from, it's the way to go. Using a scale is the way to go. I found that once I switched to using a scale and I started doing recipes that only offered scale measurements, I always got perfect XYZ. Whatever the desserts or treats were, I was always able to execute them perfectly to the recipe because measurements are so important. You'd be surprised, but measuring your flour incorrectly is actually one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people's cookies will fail. And it's unfortunate because you might write off a recipe because you're like, well, I measured it correctly and I did the trick about leveling things off and it still didn't turn out. But that flour ratio is so important. So whenever I'm trying out a new recipe, I tend to like to go for recipes that offer it in grams rather than cups. I will often put recipes down here in cups just because I know a lot of people don't like using a scale or they don't own a food scale, and I completely understand because I was like that too. The next thing on my list is I never ever break a macaron rule. Now, here's the thing. I took a class on how to make macarons. You guys know this. I took a very specific class on it, and so I am afraid to change anything to do with that macaron recipe. I really never use the French method for macaron making. I think I tried it one time as an experiment, but all of the other times I do the Italian meringue method because I know that my recipe is probably going to fail if I personally don't use the Italian meringue method. The next rule that I never break, and it's not really a rule, it's more of guidance that you shouldn't do this, but I always use a candy thermometer whenever I'm working with sugar. Now, a lot of recipes will say, oh, just dump a little bit of the sugar into a glass of water and then you'll know. I can tell you I've made lots and lots of candy recipes. I have done this several times and not once have I been able to dunk it into the water and see if it's okay. Because by the time I've done that, then it hasn't turned okay. So I always say use a candy thermometer. By the way, guys, all of the things that I'm talking about, like the food scale, the candy thermometer, I'll put those down in the description box below so you can go and check it out and see what I'm talking about. The next thing that I always do, and this seems a little contrary to the things I said yesterday about not getting my ingredients up to room temperature when called for, but I always have my butter in the refrigerator when I'm making pastry. This is so important. And I've seen a lot of people go wrong by using the butter that they've left out and then using it in their pastry. And I'm sure most of you know this, but cold butter is the way to get that beautiful flaky pastry. Same thing with when you're adding water to your pastry, you wanna make sure that it is ice cold. Now I'm very lucky, my hands don't get very warm when I'm working with something. So it's really a good idea for you to make sure that if your hands do get sweaty, you pop things back into the fridge quickly, take it back out again, work with it again. This is also why I use my food processor as opposed to my hands when I'm working with pastry. And this is also why people work with pastry cutters, so that you don't have a whole lot of things heating up that butter. This is also another pie rule that I religiously follow. I always make sure to chill my pie crust before actually baking it. Again, this is not a step that you can skip. Occasionally, I will skip chilling my cookie dough, but that's a little bit different. That's because I've worked with cookie dough several times. And if you don't chill it, it just spreads out a little bit. And generally what I do if I'm in a rush is I'll roll out the cookies, then I'll cut them out, then I'll chill them, and then I'll put them in the oven. If I'm really pressed for time, that's what I end up doing. But if you do not chill your pie dough, you're going to end up with so much shrinkage. Also, another pie tip, I know we're kind of going off on a pie tangent here, but make sure that you do fill up your pie with an appropriate amount of weight. Now, I used to use pie weights because I wanted to be cool and wanted to be like, look at my pie weights. But honestly, pie weights have not been good to me. I always get shrinkage with them, possibly because I don't have enough pie weights to actually fill it up, but you really need to fill up the whole cavity of the pie if you are making pies that require a fully baked crust. For example, a lemon meringue pie or a chocolate ganache pie. Those are the type of crusts that need to be fully baked before you actually fill them up with your fillings. And those ones require you to fill it up all the way. So you can't skip the pie weight thing either. Another rule that I never ever break, and this isn't necessarily a rule because I have seen some recipes call for this, but I personally don't do it. I always heat my chocolate in a double boiler, unless it is candy melts, because those can go into the microwave and nothing bad will happen to them. But I have had so many times when I put chocolate chips in the microwave and they've just seized up. You know, some people's microwaves are just more powerful than others. And also, you can microwave chocolate, but the problem is that sometimes it just hits this magical temperature where it will get really hard and seize up on you. And if you're being really careful, well, you're ending up heating it up every kind of 10 to 20 seconds, stir, check on it. So I just like to cut all of that out, and I always put my chocolate onto a double boiler. Another rule that I also really follow is whenever I'm making meringue, I have to make sure that the bowl is so super clean. If you've ever tried to make meringue before and you even had a hint of fat in there, you might have noticed that it flops and it just doesn't work. I remember one time when I was making Swiss meringue buttercream and I didn't clean out the pots in between batches, so then I couldn't understand why that first batch had worked and the second one was failing. And it took me a long time to realize that you can't actually make Swiss meringue buttercream or any meringue based buttercream without making sure that everything is fully cleaned. And you guys know me, if you watched yesterday's video, you know how much I truly do not like to do any extra dishes, kind of like how I don't like to waste any extra piping bags either. But this is one thing you just can't skip. So those are some of the baking rules that I don't ever break, because if you break them, then chances are your recipes are not gonna work out. What rules do you guys always adhere to? Or if you watched yesterday's video, what rules do you never adhere to? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We will have another Vlogmas video out for you tomorrow, and it is Fail Friday tomorrow, and I have got got a doozy for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading daily, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!